Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canon Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel, and this is the Skinwalker finale episode review. And you're going to know quickly what I thought of it. But they started off the segment with a man named Seth Shostak from SETI. One of the most unremarkable organizations in the world, SETI. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And really what they do is they monitor the skies waiting for a message to come from space. And Seth comes off as a real scientist and as a real thoughtful person, and his career has been rather unremarkable. And I'm just stating facts. He's probably a great guy, but to bring him onto the show was definitely a step down. And he said, well, you need to verify the signal on that 1.6 gigahertz. Well, Jack FM did verify that signal and got the same one. And then UFOs appeared after Jack broadcasted that signal, which could be interesting. And then they talked about the communication coming from one direction in the sky, and also doing a photo scan of the ranch by drone 3D model. So all this points to some type of phantom structure in the sky over that triangle. Very unusual. And the question is, what do they do next with that? And why not fly over it and just drop dust on it? A sticky kind of dust. So they also talked about that petroglyph area, the stone circle, and the 3 points aligned. Yeah, it's kind of a stretch to me. They need to use an advanced computer to work this issue. There's no doubt about it. John Dover, the ancient indigenous people, the spiral structure means a portal. I actually talked about this in Vanished. And we brought on a Native American elder that did talk about that. Then they went back to Salt Lake City, and they kind of had a powwow around a table with Governor Gary Herbert. Thomas Winterton said that there were more orbs at the ranch than at any other time he's ever seen in his life. One of the UAPs that they had was brighter than Jupiter. Elizondo says the frequency comes up related to UAPs. Now there's an interesting side note. So there's a picture of me floating around the internet sitting next to Elizondo at a MUFON conference. We were both speakers at it, at an annual conference. And when Elizondo says that 1.6 comes up a lot with UAPs, you need to pay attention to that. And I know a lot of you said, well, it may be nothing, or it comes up, it's normal, blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think they're on to something there. And then Knapp spoke up and said electromagnetic effects, cameras offline. And one of the things at Skinwalker Ranch is they had some of the best camera systems when NIDS was there working for Bigelow. And it took their cameras offline regularly. And that was part of the frustration of it. They couldn't walk away with evidence, visual evidence, that could have been convincing because the sources that brought it were reputable. But they couldn't because it outsmarted them every time. Then when they talked about the caretaker, Homestead 2, the RF spectrum analyzer is a receiver, but it was broadcasting. If you know something about electronics, that's pretty weird. So how could it be broadcasting when it's just designed to be a receiver? That tells you how advanced this entity is and how smart it really, truly can be. And if you want to call it magic, if you want to call it special effects, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's way smarter than we are. Then the caretaker talked about his eyes going black, his left arm going numb. Well, Angie reminded me that the heart runs on electronic impulses. So if electronics come into play and they can disrupt your heart, as was implied by the hospital, that's life and death. They said nothing was wrong with the heart, it was an electrical issue. And then they talked about the metal flakes, 6-inch hole, 420 feet into the mountain, tellurium and europium, two rare materials fused. Asteroid impact were the possibilities, or manufactured, perhaps engineered, similar to the ceramic tiles on the shuttle. So kind of an entry point in high heat. But the way we enter the atmosphere is pretty archaic. And it's hard to believe that an advanced life source would do it the same way we do. Just saying. And then Travis talked about the most expensive experiment they ever did at the ranch regarding lasers and rockets. Just to recap, rocket number 1 exploded on the pad. Rocket number 2 went up and then went right. And what happened to rocket number 3? They talked about it. Where'd it go? What happened to it? Why would you have 3 rockets made and not use them? And then they talked about a camera surveilling the skies by the triangle. Why aren't we seeing that camera that was surveilling the skies? And then a rancher saw a hole open in the sky before NIDS got there, and the craft went in and out. Pretty important fact that was talked about in Knapp and Kelleher's first book. The 3D model by the drone structure, to me it looks like a face at the top. Travis said the underground object might be fragile. Governor said maybe there's an X-ray underground or something similar. And Travis ended up, there's an anomaly over the ranch, 3,000 to 5,000 feet. In Brandon, we are triggering content, forces, and phenomena. So, if somebody came to Earth and wanted us to respond to them, but they were working on a frequency we couldn't pick up and we couldn't understand, and they were in a zone where we couldn't see them and our optics couldn't pick them up, and they wanted to communicate with us, how would they do it? So let's just flip things for a second. Well, they could always land on the White House lawn if they were that advanced. Or better yet, land in the middle of an Oklahoma football game with 100,000 people on the field and 3 million watching across the U.S. That would wake people up. But I think the Skinwalker Ranch people are struggling to get this entity to respond more overtly. I think that's what they're looking for. And if they're looking for something to make a big splash on the airways and in the news, then maybe they could get some DIA help about what they're shooting straight up into the sky. But if they do that, I wouldn't want to be anywhere around. And this entity already shows that they have the ability to divert the rocket away from it. But again, if you take a windless night, or windless day would be better, and you fly a helicopter up to 10,000 feet, and you just drop a bunch of colored dust over the top of this thing, would it cover it and show what it is? Why not fly over the top of it with LiDAR, and what LiDAR can do to the ground, maybe it can do in the sky? LIDAR, if you want to look it up. And then the other question is, if this is in the sky over the ranch, how many other of these things are in the sky in other parts of the United States that we don't see and we don't know that they're there? And what are they? Are they options to opening and closing a portal? Are they a satellite that moves across the U.S. and helps the entities communicate with themselves? Is it a giant communication system that monitors our communications? Part of that ant farm theory? And maybe there's one of these every state. I don't know. But they don't talk about thinking outside the box very much about what this thing may be doing. But I think they should be. Now they're going to leave the ranch for several months. Then they're going to come back and they're going to wonder, well, gee, is it still there? And if it's not there, where did it go? And why was it there? Well, if you keep poking the bear, eventually the bear is going to leave. Right? Which is kind of what you're acting like you want it to do by the actions that they're taking. I do believe that bringing in religious people is a key. And I think one of the reasons they're not is because they know something cumulative will happen. I've told you before that the Defense Intelligence Agency of our government left Skinwalker Ranch because they believe the entity was demonic. And they didn't want the people in our world, our citizens, to think that they were studying something demonic. So I don't understand that, because we are concerned about national security and we're concerned about our own safety. So why wouldn't we want them studying that? I don't get that. But that was the excuse. Now, we know that there's something unusual happening in Mount Adams in Washington, because there's been boatloads of video of things going in and out of that mountain. They almost catch more video of that than they do at Skinwalker Ranch as far as things going in and out of something terrestrial. The other thing I don't quite get is why they aren't interviewing more of the police and the sheriffs in the area that have had these sightings, and there have been a lot. Why aren't they pulling police reports in the area of strange occurrences that have happened there? And people have asked me, why am I interested in that in my work? Well, because I think that whole arena will eventually come into play in what I'm doing. I believe it's all interrelated somehow that I don't understand. But to completely block it and not talk about it excludes it from more research. So I know NIDS, it's a great story. I was in British Columbia, Canada, and I was doing some research on a topic of missing people. And I was way out there in the middle of nowhere. Myself and a video guy. Knock on a door of this cabin, and this guy opens the cabin. And he goes, "Oh, Dave Politis, I know you." He says, NIDS was here a few years ago. I said, "What?" He goes, NIDS, that Bigelow outfit. I said, "What were they here for?" "Well, they were here studying Bigfoot. They wanted to know what I knew about it." "How would they ever get you?" He goes, "I'm not sure." Amazing moment. Because what that told me is, without any help from NIDS, I was on their heels, studying similar things that they've done. And to know I was that close to what they're researching tells me I'm doing something very much correct. Which Made me feel good. I came back. And I talked to Kelleher, and I questioned him if they had a team out there, and he said, yeah, they had a team working in British Columbia, and they went out and were trying to get some items, some evidence, some hair. But Skinwalker Ranch, will it be back again? My gut tells me it will be. I think that they've got a good team there. I think they've got a good leader. Travis is a good guy. I think he's trying to do the right thing. I suppose it would be great if he could have a few more dollars and resources to do some things that he wants to do. But I'm sure that they're managing things the best they can with the limited budget that they do have. Now, Brandon, the owner, follows me on Facebook, as a matter of fact. And he's commented on things I posted. But, in fact, one of the comments he made was, credible researcher, something along those lines, he said. So I appreciate it, Brandon. I know he watches these every once in a while. But this hitchhiker thing, give you a little inside scoop here. When I was researching Bigfoot, several Bigfoot researchers had talked about entities following them home, like Bigfoot. And a woman who I met explained that this Bigfoot followed her all the way into a residence in a city. How it got there, she didn't understand. Not in the residence, but on the outside, and knocked on the window. She moved to down the wrong pipe. She moved to another state. Followed her there. Very similar to the hitchhiker effect that's at Skinwalker Ranch. But I also know of many other very, very ultra credible researchers that have had these entities come to their home. Scott Carpenter, Bigfoot researcher. I was standing in front of his home one night, probably about 1 a.m. We'd had a full day working in the backcountry in Tennessee. And he kind of lives in this area that borders this open area, open fields and things next to some mountains. And there's an aluminum carport right next to us. All of a sudden, about 1 a.m, we're standing there talking, and this giant rock hits this carport, makes a giant sound. And then subsequently, about 5-10 minutes later, it continues making the sound. More rocks. And Scott goes, yeah, they want us to know that we know they're there. So the hitchhiker effect isn't just to Skinwalker Ranch. It's happened to many other people I know. And I can't explain it. I know that the people that have had this have never had anything bad happen to them that I know about. But I think you got to be a special person that want to bring this on. So anyhow, that's the season finale for Skinwalker Ranch. I was a little disappointed they didn't end on a higher note. It almost seemed like a 1-year cumulative episode where they got everyone together to talk about things. Wasn't really anything new revealed in the field that was super amazing. So anyhow, I hope they come back. Right now, I'm George Knapp sent me his new book. Him and Colm Kelleher and Lakatsky wrote about Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. That's the title. And I got it about a week ago, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. It's a really good book. I will talk about it in the future. And it kind of explains some of the things that they brought up. And some of the new things that he brought up in the book that hadn't been in other things. So anyhow, I hope you're good, and I will be back soon, I hope. In the meantime, be safe, be nice to people, do something good for somebody out there. I'll talk to you soon. Polite us out.